I wanted to talk about a new series that I've been reading since it came out, and I've really enjoyed it. And I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of like an endorsement style video for it. So I'm gonna try and go relatively fast, try and keep it under 10 minutes. But I wanted to talk about just having a brief overview of Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi and why I think the series has been really solid in it, and I would definitely recommend it. I don't really want to go into anything for spoilers about the series, so I'll keep most of it to chapter one. Anything from chapter one, like I'll talk about. So, but anything beyond chapter one, I don't really want to go into too much of detail, and I don't want to give anything for spoilers. But I will talk about, like I said, the contents of chapter one, and then stuff related to the series of um, talking about the stuff like the Oda endorsement and why I think that's more valuable and more important than what we saw, like the commonly compared Geeky endorsement for Mama Yuyu. I don't think that's the same relative thing. But if you haven't checked out the series and you maybe seen it somewhere and you want to just kind of get a little bit of an idea of it, the thing is the main character of it in the story, really clear cut, is that he's like a prodigy exorcist. He's an exorcist, just complete and total, skilled from the go, high level of potential, and he though is very raw talent and very against he's still trained, but it seems like his training, obviously just shoots to higher levels than what the normal yield would be. But he, and a personality wise, wasn't able to really keep up. So like the idea would be like, personality wise, like in terms of fear, it's like early Deku, to where he just was completely not prepared for, in terms of the points where his body doesn't just act on his own, where he's just kind of still in full control, and he's like, wow, this is some, so in some dangerous scenarios and some shit, but like completely scared and not really in that full control. But like that's kind of the thing, is Kiyoshi is like very powerful, and he's got a lot of like training, but it's more of like isolated training, and it's not like in the field active, like more practical training, like fighting stuff. So he doesn't have the confidence of somebody at his level, I think is really important to say. And it's like he has the, he's level 50, but he has the mentality of somebody who's level 5, I guess. I mean, just to give that idea, he does not have the same matching level of mental fortitude that you'd expect somebody that has his level of output. But he tries really hard to end up like talking to people and be more friendly. It seems that his training too made him a little bit more socially awkward, and he just doesn't have a lot of experience talking to people. But at the same time, he has a very good heart, and he connects well with people once he seems starts to talk to them. It seems to be a very reoccurring theme. He has the difficulty for it, but once he actually gets to a point where he's able to communicate with somebody, they just seem to have very good, well interactions. But with it, there's stuff for like exactly where his character itself kind of responds to events, because he, in the first chapter, like he fights this guy, and it's the first of the demon lords he goes up against. And in the first meeting, like Kiyoshi just passes out on his feet. He's just like scared to interact with this guy. He's afraid, he's worried. And through this guy that he meets, this demon, that he ends up being a really nice guy. And he's like, it's one of those scenarios where it's like you see the demons themselves are, I would assume, because we, again, I don't want to go too much into spoilers, but it seems that from their race, the more evil demons are the ones that are more powerful, where it doesn't seem to be the case for the lower level ones. They seem, at least from this guy, to be pretty normal, because they have like departments and jobs and stuff in their own world. So I would assume that this guy is just like a low to the ground, has nothing really going on, and because of that, he doesn't go out and do evil stuff. And maybe that's how their world is kind of structured. And I think Kiyoshi just kind of recognized that this dude is he's just a nice guy. He's just a regular guy trying to do his job. He doesn't want to be doing some possession stuff. And I thought that was really cool in the first chapter, as you have the main character and like, yeah, this race that you're supposed to be hunting, not like hunt, well, sort of, yeah, pretty much. Um, you're hunting down and exercising. Some of them aren't so bad, and like they're just kind of like dudes that are living their life, and they're not trying to really cause anybody any damage or harm. Which I really like, because it's an opening to the world, and it's going to be, to me, I think, a really cool world. world collide of differences when we get to that point. But he ends up having like this moment where he's talking to this dude and he's being attacked by the villain, and he pretty much just locks in and just switches over. Because the thing with him, he talks about how like there are fears that he can't conquer, but something that he fears more than any demon is losing someone that's close to him and someone that matters to him, which I really like. I think that's a really cool thing where it's just the idea, in Kiyoshi's mind, where he thinks, oh, this person is about to die. It's like this fear of that of him overtakes him, and it just has him completely put in him, like in his body. It's in that same kind of scenario where he is like, he himself isn't always confident in his abilities, but where his a bit like almost like his body just takes over, like knowing that it can do this and it just wants to go in. And as long as he is like in that mindset of fear, it puts him in that state of just like complete and total attack and complete and total like realization of capability, which I like that a lot. I like it kind of like utilizes fear in a way like that. It's almost like Batman, but it's just a really cool setup for that. And then his powers are really cool. I really like the cool crest exorcism, like the tattoos that he has these powers on. He's got one that is like this used in theme of the moon that he uses for like all his attack abilities, and then he's got his sun one on his right arm that does all these utility abilities. It's a really nice power structure too for this series. Like early on, we don't know a lot of it in depth, but we have a really good layout so far. But the series itself, and why I talked about the endorsement, and that's something I wanted to kind of go over, and I'll go over again like a full kind of one more once over once I talk about it and kind of finish it in a few minutes after this. But like the endorsement, I think is really interesting. I wanted to include in this because this is something I don't think people like really understand. Is for the people who read Mama Yu and read Jujutsu Kaisen, the two series don't have a similar tone or vibe. I think that the readers of Jujutsu Kaisen would go read that and then be like, yeah, this is something that I like too. And I think that's a really was a big problem with that. I think, to my guess is like the thing about Mama Yu is like I think the art style was really cool, and I think that's very compelling to anybody who does art. And so I think that like it wasn't as much of the tone and the style of the series itself, because I don't think it transferred over as well. Whereas with Oda, if you look at the other series Oda's recommended, I don't know like all of Oda's things. I know he likes movies too. I know he's like where he likes movies a lot too. And I think maybe that's where he like Promised Neverland. I don't really know, because I know with I can't remember the pronunciation of this year's Akane Bananchi or something like that. I know Oda's a big fan of stage plays, like Japanese stage plays, so it made sense that he liked that and he endorsed it. But I think with Kiyoshi, the main thing is it feels very core shonen, and that's something that I really wanted to go into more of, like why I think it was important to bring it up. Is if you're somebody that likes One Piece, I think there's a very large percentage of them that just like core shonen. It's that very, very old school style that a lot of like late 90s to like mid 2000s manga I think covered really well, of just having the strong tone overall. And especially like obviously stuff in the 90s and the late 80s as well. But I think like like the golden age was in just that late 90s to like mid to late 2000s was just really strong. And I think he recognizes that this has that tone. I think stuff like Mashal and Black Clover also have that vibe to it. There's a point later I don't really want to go into that has a really strong kind of moment of that, where it just feels like that kind of generational moment for the character, and like what Shonen itself is going for like it's supposed to be aiming at for like this male audience. Because you also have to keep that in mind, obviously, for what it is, because there are shonens that follow more of like the core of the genre, and then there are shonens that kind of like split out into different ways to do it differently. Like you have something like Chainsaw Man and My Hero Academia, which are very different than a lot of your average shonens, but they're very different in different ways, very contrasting to what you would say like this is My Hero is very different in X ways, and Chainsaw Man is very different X ways. Each of those X ways do not compare at all. They're very different, but they're both very different from what you'd see in a lot of your standard shonens. Whereas like I think Kyoshi has a lot of very old school shonen vibes, and I would definitely recommend that. And I think anybody who has read many of these types of series would read this and see it of a similar nature and kind of understand what that. I think that that presence that the magazine needs is you need to have some of these style of series in it, because like we have some other really strong up and coming new series as well, like Ichi the Witch, Kagurabachi as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how those play out. Like Kagurabachi has been great. Ichi the Witch I think has potential. I'm waiting for it to get to like an actual arc where they do like story related stuff and it's not just side quests. Because that's one of the things I was like, I really enjoyed the beginning of Kiyoshi, and I, like the first couple chunks of chapters are really good. But once we get to the actual arcs, we just about finished the second arc, really solid. I've enjoyed relatively everything in this manga. Like even the one filler chapter was like a pretty funny filler chapter, so I can't really complain at anything in this series so far. So again, high recommend for me. This is my favorite, I'd say, out of the Jump New series. I always end up enjoying the chapters. It's like this, like I said, in Kagurabachi, I always end up really enjoying them. So I'm hoping to see this series really do well. We'll see. We gotta wait to see probably until after. I would assume they're volume 2 at this point, because it seems like Shonen Jump has a little bit of favor they're giving it right now, because it's got like its second color page in the same month. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. We'll see how things kind of lay out. I plan on doing more content for the series as things go, until, you know, if we find out unfortunately the series doesn't make it and it ends up getting axed, and that's that. But until then, I'm definitely going to follow this one, because it seems it's made it through the first round, and it seems to be doing pretty fairly well. I think it's like 11 something thousand, and it had to get reprints. So volume 1, I would assume, is going to hit at least 15, 16, maybe even 20 or something within the first kind of general couple months, which I think is still pretty good. And then I would love to see the series kind of grow, but we'll see. We'll see if we get that Hitsugi cover for volume 2. But if we get that solid blue one with him on it and he's looking cool, I'll definitely have to cop that one. I'd love to get the first few, at least until we start getting the English ones, assuming it gets to that point, but we'll see. Anyway, other than that, comment below, tell me your thoughts about the series, or if you check the series out. This is just my general endorsement. I just wanted to go over a little TLDR of the series and talk about a little bit of the values and kind of just what it's about. And I'm going to do more general content. I'll probably do videos in the first 2 arcs, and maybe the first like little mini arc, and then get to the current stuff. But for now, I just wanted to do like a quick little endorsement. We'll talk about it. Honestly, I probably will do little arc reviews, because I do really want to talk about the parts that I didn't end up doing chapter reviews on, because I was a combination of busy, and I wanted to wait until if I had a better stance on the series' survival, because I generally do like the series, but Shonen Jump's axe is a little slippery, and you got to go watch out for it sometimes. But anyway, other than that, talk to you guys later. Bye.